Welcome, low ego action heroes and phoenixes. I'm Debbie Levitt from dcx. Please let me know if you can hear me okay. We're not listening back to how this sounds, and we hope it sounds good to you. Let us know if we are. All right, hopefully everybody can see and hear us. I'll do a quick check online to see how things look. Let's see. Okay, there we are on Twitch. And somebody's watching. Okay. So if you have a question about domain names, websites, web hosting, you name it, please ask in the chat. We would love to take your questions, and we are here live, and hopefully we'll get your questions. I also want to mention that part of the reason why we've got Pier Mario here is because he has a zillion years running his own company, making WordPress websites for his clients, mostly WordPress. You can find him at happierweb.com. Hashtag not sponsored. No. and he has a new job as tech support for a web hosting.
You can definitely use whatever free domain, blogging websites, and other services offer as a free option. But if you're promoting your company, your business, your karaoke business, or just to say one random thing, it's much easier and much more professional to be found at domain name that is
country where everybody can get every type of name.
Right.
I want to remind people, you buy a domain, you're really renting it, because if you stop paying for it, it's not yours, right, Pier Mario?
Absolutely, yes. Basically, you're paying. That's right, Debbie. When you buy a domain, it comes with many quotes. You're actually renting that name from the authority that manages that domain, so-called extension. So that whatever is after the dot, like .com, .it, .tv, you name it, that's called extension. And every
look at the fine audience.
At the fine audience. Hi, fine audience. And the extensions are generally managed by an authority that basically is in charge of making sure that everybody plays according to rules and does not abuse domains, this kind of thing. So the interesting thing, one of the interesting things about domains is that it's almost one of the last part of the internet that are kind of fair and regulated for.
You don't need to hire Pier Mario to sign up for your domain name for you. It's best to take control of this yourself and register your own domain name. And when it asks you for contact information, put you, because for decades I've been fighting unethical website design companies and freelancers who, for example, will say, oh yeah, you can get your own domain name, we'll get you piermario.com, don't worry, I'll set that up for you. And then when they get the domain name, they put their own name on it as the legal owner, known as the registrant. And what'll happen is, if you ever try to fire them or take over that domain or move it to another company, you'll find you don't legally own it. And an unethical website designer or freelancer or agency will say, well, we own your domain name, you're going to have to stay with us, or we'll sell it back to you. So remember, you don't need a middle person to get a domain name. Currently, I'm getting all of my names on namecheap.com. Hashtag not sponsored. There's no relationship between me and them, but you can just go straight to that website and get your own domain name, and you don't have to sign up for any of their extras. You don't have to say yes to websites and yes to email and yes to whatever. The only extra I tend to say yes to is domain privacy. Why do I want domain privacy, Pier Mario?
You want domain privacy, Debbie, because it looks like a commercial.
We didn't rehearse it.
Domain infomercials. Oh no, my domain.
Has this ever happened to you?
Yeah, like a cute black and white domain disaster. Yes, you want privacy on your domain registration data, because those information are that information is publicly available. So there's a thing called Whois. Literally, it's a service that allows you to check who owns a website, where it's hosted, and a bunch of other information. So
if they've made that public and they didn't turn on domain privacy.
Yeah, usually the you can still know in most cases at least where a domain is being hosted, unless somebody goes a bit more technical, but in general. But it's also kind of common, unfortunately, that if you don't turn this thing on, which is free in most cases, or so it's just a checkbox away when you order, or it's like a couple of dollars
usually
a year.
Free.
Yeah, but some hosting companies will happily sell it to you as extra privacy. Which,
on Namecheap, I'm not paying for it.
Yeah,
so.
just, it's one of those things that you check when you check hosting companies and registers. And so it's better to keep your data private.
Right, so if you go to certain domain names that I own or that you own, you're not going to see my personal name, my business name, my address, my telephone number, my email address. These are all just the hosting company or the registrar, the company like Namecheap. They'll just put something else in there. They know who I am. I'm not completely secret and unknown, but if somebody has a problem with my domain, they would contact Namecheap, and Namecheap would find me, but at least my name and personal information is not out there in a public database. So domain privacy.
Always.
Hashtag always. We've also talked about, you've got your domain name, so we've got our piermario.com, and now we want to put up our website, promoting your fantasticness. Maybe you're building your own small business, maybe you're putting up your portfolio or a resume or CV, could be anything. You're going to put up a website. Explain to the nice people out there, what is a hosting company and why do I need one? I mean, I bought my domain. What's hosting?
Okay. So a hosting company, it's a company that sells the space you need to put your files. Let's keep it as simple as possible. It's literally the company that sells you the space on the internet where you upload your photographs, audio, text files, whatever. It's a space you again own for the time you have an active hosting service. But most of all, what you also pay is the technical infrastructure that allows you to run or install any applications you might want to use for your website, such as WordPress or other so-called content management systems. WordPress is probably the most common of them all, but there's Joomla, Drupal, and a lot of other smaller ones. And the hosting company provides you with this. And good hosting companies also add usually to your plan also like a professional email service or security services like
Right, so you'd be able to get email at piermario.com, at whatever your domain name is. Part of a hosting package is typically matching email so that you're not using a Gmail or a personal email. You'll have it at your own name.
Yeah, and just now that you named Gmail and domain emails, I want to very quickly circle back on something we said earlier about registration data. Like, pro tip, use the oldest, most, even less fancy, but tested email you have, the one you know you'll definitely get email on, and never ever use a domain name email for your registration, because if you register your domain at myself@example.org, if you let that domain expire,
there goes your email.
There goes your email, and there goes your chance to reset your password and prove that you are the person in charge of that domain. So
right. So when you're buying, especially your domain name,
yes,
because that is kind of the foundation of all of this, make sure that you're using an email address that you're unlikely to lose control of, which I think for many people would end up a Gmail or an internet service provider, a Yahoo, a Hotmail, something that you're not going to lose along the way. So, and when it comes to hosting, I think a lot of hosting packages confuse people. They go to a hosting company and they say, oh my gosh, do I need a lot of bandwidth? Do I need a lot of databases? I'm seeing all these different packages. How do I know which one I need? And I think the answer is, first of all, you might need to ask someone for help, because we don't know if you're putting up a simple portfolio website or if you're putting up an e-commerce website with 1,000 items or vibe coded, I don't know what. So we can't say one package is right for everybody, and that's why there's different packages, because different packages are going to be right for everybody. But if somebody were going to put up a simple informational website or kind of a resume, CV, and portfolio, do they need a big expensive hosting package?
Not necessarily. Like a hosting package, even a good one. I mean, if you're in Italy, it's even cheaper, because we're used to bundles and packages that also come with your domain name in what you're paying. But generally, you pay for a hosting package and domain names as an extra aside. But a good hosting package might come as cheap as €3 a month or €5 a month. So you don't need to spend a lot of money to get something that it's reliable, at least to start with. Then one good thing about at least serious hosting companies is that you can upgrade and downgrade your services and switch from one plan to another one, and kind of provide to your website what it needs as it grows or has other needs. So you don't necessarily need to go super expensive when you're beginning.
Okay, good to know. Now, for people who want to use WordPress, a lot of them see WordPress.com and they think, oh, if I want a WordPress website, I should just sign up with WordPress.com. But you and I tend to advise people against that. Are you comfortable saying why, or should those words come out of my mouth?
Well, no, I mean, it's what she said, but. No, I'm not necessarily advising against WordPress.com. I got many friends who work there, so there's just a bit of an ongoing kind of gray area sometimes when it comes to WordPress, and this is as quickly as possible, because The project itself, WordPress, it's a so-called open source project. Like, it's a piece of internet software that can be freely downloaded and used, provided you have a place to put it, like the hosting service and a domain name. So technically, WordPress is free and open source, and everybody can use it for free. You pay for the extra services. The gray area comes in. Gray area for new users or people who are not into WordPress. The co-founder of WordPress, and possibly the world's most famous WordPress person, is Matt Mullenweg, and he's also the owner of Automatic, which is his own company that runs a company called the company is called Automatic, but their service is WordPress.com, which is basically kind of a simplified hosting company for WordPress. Like, you can go from
All right, I'm gonna have to step in here.
well, just quickly go from free blog
He's too nice.
Well, I'm also part of the WordPress community, so I want to play nice.
Then I will say it. So, I have an opinion that he may or may not share, that WordPress.com is overpriced, and that you can get lots of WordPress hosting from many good hosting companies. In Europe, we're currently recommending Cloud86.
Cloud86 is very good.
In America, I've been paying for DreamHost. These are both not sponsored. These are just companies we like. There are other companies as well. But you don't have to put a WordPress website on WordPress.com. I personally think that WordPress.com is overpriced for what you get, and you will probably spend less if you find WordPress hosting from another company. Like, look into DreamHost, look into Cloud86, look into other hosting companies. It's not that WordPress.com is bad or evil or wrong. I just think it tends to be overpriced.
The only other difference is that in a way, WordPress.com runs a kind of a customized version of WordPress, because they come with their own services and interesting things they do with WordPress, like an AI builder system. Yay!
Pass.
Hire
this guy.
Yeah,
Happierweb.com.
The short version is that if you install the free version of WordPress on your own hosting, you are basically free to do everything you want and add or piece together plugins and add every function you want to your website, and you don't necessarily have to upgrade to a higher plan to be able to do XYZ. So
right, there's a bit of upsell happening on WordPress.com that you might not get from other hosting companies. Let's also mention that when you have a WordPress website, wherever you've put it, there are ways to move that site to another hosting company. So if you start at WordPress.com and you feel like it's expensive, or you feel like you're being overcharged, can that site be migrated to another hosting company?
Yes and no. That's one of the downsides.
Okay.
You can migrate from WordPress.com to another, let's say, regular WordPress website, if you are on a plan that allows you to use there are plugins that allow you to basically create a package with everything your website.
Like a big backup.
Basically a big backup, and then move it outside. Otherwise, you can export the contents of your website, like text and images, but you can't export layouts, and basically you would have to
Rebuild
the website, which
Not good.
not always great.
Okay, so something for people to remember is that if they start on WordPress.com and they find they want to move their site later, they might find that it's not as easy to move as they might have hoped.
It might not be, especially if you're on some lower plans. There are some limits, but again, nothing against WordPress.com, which otherwise runs on super solid hosting, because they tend to know WordPress. Like, they are literally some of the people who makes WordPress, literally. So reliable, fast, everything. Just maybe not targeted at power users at a certain level. So.
And some of you might feel like you're not a power user, but you just might want to make sure you have the flexibility to take your site and your email and other stuff with you when you move around. So WordPress.com is not one of my recommendations at this time, even though I do recommend WordPress as the foundation of a website. But we know that sites like Squarespace and Wix are very popular right now. Some people even build websites in Notion or Framer. So can you speak a little bit about, let's talk about, let's say you build a site in Squarespace or Wix and you go, ooh, this Squarespace site is pretty cool, but I don't like paying what they're charging. I think I'll move it to another hosting company and get off Squarespace. What's the problem with me thinking that?
Well, the problem is too bad. You can't move it.
Right.
So the
Squarespace only exists on Squarespace.
Yeah, again, the short version here is that services such as Squarespace, Wix, Shopify itself, and these systems basically can be pretty good. Like I think that like Squarespace has some of the best, slickest designs ever, best galleries, everything. So very good, but it's a closed system.
Right.
So it starts and ends there, and it's not always easy or possible at all to move out. Like, there's not an easy way out.
And as someone who's now working in tech support for a hosting company, from time to time you get a potential customer who says, hey, I've heard your hosting company is good, I like your prices and packages, I want to put my Squarespace website on your hosting company, and you unfortunately have to tell them,
I'm sorry, we can't, because it's and
also once you stop paying for Squarespace, your site goes poof.
Yes, Squarespace, Shopify, like there are other systems as well, but basically I would recommend, before you start building your website, to like ask around and get informed on what the options are, because the teams here are usually like open web versus closed systems, and as in open web we have services like WordPress, Joomla, Drupal, and most of these are so-called open source softwares, so everybody can use them, contribute, modify, help translate, whatever. So they come with maybe a bit steeper learning curve, but in my opinion, not just because I build websites for people as my work, the effort you put into this kind of tools is usually well spent, because you're not locked out. Like you can always move or change things within these systems in a way or another. So
Yeah, like a Notion site only exists on Notion.
yeah,
But we've also learned recently, I think a Framer site can be exported and put somewhere else. Did we hear that? Or we're not sure?
possible, but
Okay.
I think that Framer, from what I've seen, I mean, every company right now is trying to get as much profit or keep as much as possible within their boundaries. So
Right.
even if it's technically possible, probably to host a website made with Framer or any other system, now that we named Framer sells their own hosting plans. So even if it's probably possible, I don't know, it just makes more sense if you're a Framer user to stay within Framer because they are the experts. Like, who's more expert than the people who build Framer about Framer? So just that.
Great, thanks. I see in my notes that I also wanted to mention, and we're going to go back to domain names for a moment. I want to talk about something we used to call cyber squatters.
Right.
And what's happened sometimes, and this came up in our Discord community, was someone had a domain name. Let's just pretend it's piermario.com. And they decided, oh, well, this is expensive. This is X dollars, euros, rupees, whatever per year. I don't want to pay this anymore. I'm going to stop paying for the domain name, or I'm going to buy a different domain name that is cheaper for me each year. And then what happened was the domain name expires. After the domain name expires and you stop paying for it, it goes out into the universal bucket of available domain names. But what sometimes happens, and we can't say if this will happen or not to any particular domain name, but there are cyber squatters. And a cyber squatter is someone who registers a domain name in the hopes of reselling it. So if you let piermario.com go by accident or on purpose, and I'm a cyber squatter, and I would say nowadays the cyber squatters are probably using AI and grabbing domains as soon as they expire, then I can always say, okay, piermario.com is now 2,000 euros if you want it back. And you might be like, 2,000 euros? I just bought it for 10. And what happens is they say, too bad, I own this now. You let your domain go. It's mine now. If you want it, you're going to have to pay me 2,000 euros, 100 euros, 40,000 euros, dollars, rupees, whatever it is. And so you just want to make double dog sure. Put a reminder in your calendar if you have to. If you don't want to lose your domain name, in the old days, you would lose a domain name and the next thing you knew it was a porn site.
Yeah, or like now it's nice gambling websites or crypto.
Great, yeah, gambling, crypto, and what happens is either they keep it and they hope that the traffic that used to come to the site looking for you is now traffic that they're getting to their gambling, crypto, porn, or sometimes they just put up a for sale page, but you don't have any rights to that name anymore unless you want to enter into a trademark fight with this person. And I want to talk for a moment about trademarks. So feel free to take a nap.
Yeah.
So
Go ahead.
I'm not a lawyer, but I can tell you a couple of things about trademarks. And if you register a trademark with your country and your domain name matches it, if somehow you lose that domain name or someone uses a very similar one, you could fight that person. But that might take lawyers, that might take arbitration. It used to be the WIPO process, WIPO. I don't know if that is still how it's done. I haven't fought a domain name in many years, but I used to do that. And so you are not guaranteed to get a domain or win it back or any of these things. So you just want to be very careful about choosing domain names. If Microsoft is Microsoft.com, you should not take Microsoft.net or Microsoft.ai or Microsoft.sex or whatever it is, because guess what? Microsoft is a protected trademark, and they can come after you if they think that you are using that name in a way that might be inappropriate or confusing. So remember that trademarks cut both ways. They can get you in trouble when you try to use a business name, or if someone tries to use your name or take your domain or register a very similar one, you can fight them, but these fights cost money. And so it's not like there is some person or judge or AI somewhere where you can write a complaint and they say, oh, Debbie's right, she should get that domain. Done. The domain goes back to you. No, these things take months, and they look at evidence, and there's fights. And again, I haven't done one in many, many years, but they used to be long and thousands of dollars on a good day. So just please be careful that you put it into your calendar. When does your hosting expire? When is your domain name up for renewal? Put these in your calendar with yearly reminders and put them in a month or so ahead of time so you're not surprised that you lost a domain name. This especially happens when someone's credit card expires and they don't realize their credit card is expired, the domain name or the hosting comes due, you think you've put your credit card on it, it'll go through, and through some miscommunication, you don't even realize you didn't pay for it. All of a sudden, you've had clients who have called you up going, my domain name is gone, my website is down, my email doesn't work, or things like that. So, or is there other advice that you can give our listeners and watchers about making sure they don't lose a domain name or website that they don't want to lose?
Well, in general, the advice, like the good practice starts again with registration, use contact information. Hey, use contact information that you know you are actively using, so it's not an email you're no longer checking or a phone number that you no longer own, something like that. But at the same time, keep your registration information updated, like credit card and everything. Good hosting companies usually send you reminders about expiration. In most cases, when such thing happens, like when a domain expires, customers just overlooked the email because hosting companies sometimes and domain registrars start sending you reminders months before. So it's like when you see the same email coming over and over, you might tend to ignore them. Wrong. Like, you can ignore them if you check that your automatic renewal is on an active credit card. So that's good advice. The good news, or the thing that brings back what I said earlier about domain registration being a somewhat fair game.
Technical issue with the sound. I hear echo.
Oh, I don't know.
We've been echoing this whole time?
I hope not.
Testing.
Were we on karaoke mode?
Yeah, are we in karaoke mode?
I hope we weren't.
No, we're not in karaoke mode. I don't know where the echo is coming from. Is it really bad? I am not sure where the echo is coming from. I'm not seeing anything in the system that's causing it. Oh, that's causing it.
So it was echo all over?
It was echo for 38 minutes.
No.
I'm sorry.
do not let your website expire. In that case, Echo was great.
We had people watching live. Why didn't they say something?
We might have to redo. But anyway,
we've got 4 people watching on YouTube. We had a few on LinkedIn. Why didn't somebody say? It's okay. It wasn't that bad.
Audible.
Okay, I think we fixed it. Did we fix it? We accidentally had the sound coming from the microphone and from the camera.
Okay.
That's what it was. The echo was a bit distracting, but not that bad.
Well,
I think that's what it was. Sorry, everybody. I thought I had turned that off before we started.
We can do episode 2 without echo at some point.
That's all right. I think we've got good information, and the fine people will put up with us. If anybody has any questions, we're happy to answer them. We're live. Let us know what you wanna know. I'll check back on my notes. Keep going.
Yeah, just quickly, what I was saying is that in order to lose a domain name, you kind of have to put little effort, because the moment your website expires and you don't renew, it doesn't necessarily disappear on most hosting companies. Cheap hosting companies tend to terminate immediately your service the minute that your hosting plan expires. I would avoid those. Other hosting companies would keep your website on for a limited time to give you time to pay, and like if you are, some people still pays hosting and
a grace
domains.
period.
Yeah, but like some people still do bank transfers. So some hosting companies allow
they've
you
got to wait for
to
the
pay for like
bank to
in
move
5
money.
days from the expiration, but usually not preferred. So if a domain expires, it goes into a frame of time called literally the redemption period. And basically this is a time you have in which you can still recover your domain name, in most cases for a fee. So nice hosting companies will charge you not a lot of money. Some other hosting companies, I don't remember who it was, but once a hosting company charged a customer like $80 to
turn their name back on.
Yeah. Like
I asked Claude the other day what it can cost, and Claude said sometimes it's $100 or $200.
Yeah.
So there's definitely a penalty if you forget to renew your domain name and then you try to save it during this grace period or redemption period. So, you know, I'm the kind of person who puts annual reminders into my calendar weeks before something, double check that this was paid. I do that with domains. I do it with my post office box. I don't want to find that my post office box wasn't renewed and now I don't have a post office box.
Right.
So, you know, anything you don't want to lose, get it in your calendar with a reminder.
Yeah, but like checking your email and auto renewal are generally your best bet.
Right. Oh, and let's also remind everybody that a lot of spammers pretend to be hosting companies and domain registrars. I get about 10 spam emails a day right now, pretending that they are DreamHost, which is my hosting company, saying, you're going to lose your domain name, your email box is full, your website's going to be turned off, your payment didn't go through, and all the emails have been designed to look exactly like the emails that DreamHost sends me. But all you have to do is, first of all, do not click on them, and just all I do is I look at the from, and it's never from DreamHost. It's always from Squizzic, you know, it's always from unpronounceable thing and Gmails and whatever. So again, this is an area where people get very nervous and they get sloppy and they go, oh my God, I'm going to lose my .com or I'm going to lose my website. Oh my God, I better click on this and pay for it. And it's completely a scam. So be careful.
Right. And another thing to notice before you click on anything that you shouldn't is that in most cases you can tell these emails are sketchy because their tone is very harsh or it's not polite at all. Like a hosting company will never send you, or Apple will never send you an
A
email.
bitchy email.
Yeah, or using exclamation points like
Right.
renew now or else.
Right.
So if the tone is not nice and professional and relaxed and just a reminder, something's odd. So
Right.
also beware of emails. I got one from a customer today, forwarded, looked totally legit. You just hover with your mouse on buttons, see what the address is.
That's true too. You can hover
That's
over
another
buttons
thing.
and links before you click and notice
Right.
that you're going to Korea.
That and from you have to check the address, because sometimes they if you don't check what's the address, the sender's name might be your actual hosting company.
Right.
or
They'll
a
say the
trusted
sender
company,
is
so-
DreamHost, but then the from email
Yeah.
is @hotmail.com.
So yeah, so just don't click on don't panic. And if you get an email like that, the first thing you do is go to your log into your hosting account, check the expiration date. If everything is in place and in order there, that's the source of truth.
Yeah.
Like that's where you checked.
Yeah, don't click anything.
No,
log into your account.
if you have to renew on your hosting account. If you have to check for dates, that's where you go. Like, don't just rush to click on links or whatever.
So Ana Lucia's got a good question that we semi-covered but not completely, so let's go there. And if anybody else has any questions, today we're talking domain names, websites, hosting, trademarking, whether or not you need to trademark stuff, which ultimately you mostly don't, unless you want to fight people for using your trademarks. Like I've dcx trademarked, but I'm not going to trademark Debbie Levitt, and you don't have to either. So Ana Lucia says, I don't know if you already answered this. Feel free to not answer if you did. But what's your opinion on domain names and portfolios? For example, you choose DebbieLevitt.com for your portfolio. Should you ever update it? What are the consequences of losing your portfolio's domain? Do you think it may be bad if you change it something like DebbieLevitt.it or something like that? So typically, once I pick a domain name for my portfolio or my business, I usually don't change it unless I go through some sort of business rebrand. So for example, many of you know my company as dcx, but that's relatively new. That's a name I started using 7-8
Yep.
years ago. Before that, we were called P-Type, short for prototype, because that's most of what my company did. Before that, we were called Brass Flowers, because that's the legal name of my company in memory of my grandmothers. And before that, we were called As Was. So throughout time, I have had some different email addresses and websites at some different domain names, but I mostly changed it when I was doing a big rebrand. Other than that, I've owned DebbieLevitt.com for a very long time. I'm not sure I even have anything now. I think it just dumps you. I think I have my voice acting page there right now, but I haven't looked at that in about 10 years. So I think it's good to pick a domain name that can be your website. If you're going to start your own agency or your own business, then you come up with a business name. If you want to use your personal name, you can use your personal name. It doesn't have to have your last name. He's piermario.com. He's got piermario.com, though I don't know if he's using it because he's one name Pier Mario, like Madonna.
Some per Mario, at least one is still mad at me for registering, but
What can we do?
Those were the 90s.
Yeah, I thought at one point about getting debb.ie, but I
Okay.
couldn't register an Ireland
All right.
name at the time because I had no address there. So ultimately, I think it's good to pick a name that can be yours as kind of a forever domain name, where you can get email at me@debbielevitt.com or hello@debbielevitt.com or info@debbielevitt.com. That way, that is always your email, and it looks professional. It looks more professional than coolchick82@gmail, or I've seen some pretty strange email addresses over the years. But I think it's great to have one that can be yours and yours. And that way, if you move hosting companies or you build your website on a different platform, it's always analucia.com or analucia.portugal or whatever you end up doing.
Yeah, if I can add something to that.
You can.
Thank you. Hello. Something I do, like we do for ourselves, but I advise my customers to do, is once you pick your domain name, if available, also it's a good idea to buy at least the most common domain extensions that are available. Like if you're an Italian company or a freelancer, it might be a good idea to register both .it and .com. So also because sometimes you will end up giving your domain name just by saying your address to somebody, and they might not remember, was it .it, was it .com? So if
Dot something else.
Or dot something else, like .pt for Portugal. And if you bought .pt and .com, whatever they put, you can have one domain as your actual address for the website, and the other domain just a name that forwards visitors to the actual domain.
And this gets a little more complicated, and you might need some help doing this. But the bottom line is you can always decide, hey, this is my brand, and I'm going to buy a couple of domain names just to know that I've kind of locked up the name. That doesn't mean you have to buy everything. I remember in the 90s, I used to buy .com, .org, .net, because those were the main big three, and I didn't want anybody to compete with me with a very similar domain name. But now I feel less precious about that stuff. I've got dcx.com. If you want to be dcx.to, I guess I probably won't fight you, but a lot of people are going to end up on my website thinking they're going to yours. Like I win, when I've got the .com. So, but I do use some domain names that use other extensions. The main thing to know is that some of the weirder extensions are sometimes become famous for spam. And when we try to email people from some of these extensions, we find that they're just naturally going into spam. I had that with my P-type email. My P-type email I eventually found was naturally going into spam, and I had to pick because I didn't have a .com. IT makes sense. That's I don't know what people's opinions are.
Oh, that's right.
Actually, red is
using your country's own domain extension might actually be a nice touch if you're dealing with something that is like authentic or typical from your country. Like if you have a restaurant and you're Italian, having a .it, or if you produce wine, or I don't know, pastéis de nata, I don't know, it's okay to have a .it or a .pt, because that's as local as it gets. But if you can, and it's available, also get the .com.
Yeah, and I used to have a lot of fights with people on this, but about 25 years ago when, I don't know if you remember when .cc came out, and was it WS or .gg? There were a couple of domains that came out at one point because people acted like, oh my gosh, we're running out of .coms.
Right.
And so we're going to need .cc or something else. And I always told people that while some of these extensions are interesting or unique or whatever, and we do use them sometimes, they're sometimes not as memorable. And so if you say, hey, come find me at piermario.cc, and I'll be like, piermario. Wait, what was it again? And so I think a lot of people tend to think in terms of the country that they're in, or .com and .net. There's also .eu. Right. So if people are looking more broadly at the EU, you don't have to pick a country. There's .eu. I think if you're in the UK, it's very common to see .co.uk or .com.au for Australia. So I think that if you can get a .com, that makes sense, but you want it to be something that is easy to hear, easy to spell, so that you're not saying weird gobbly mess, to people, because ultimately this is marketing. You want people to go, oh, dcx.com. Hey, that's short and memorable. I can type that in. Or we had P-type. P-type, I always used to say P-type, short for prototype. And people go, oh, okay, I can remember that. Or my original company name was As Was, the opposite of As Is. Oh, As Was, ASWAS. I can remember that. And so I usually tried to go with shorter names that were memorable and spelled the way that they sounded, so that I didn't have... The hardest one I had was P-type, but when I said short for prototype, people got it. But I try not to pick names that are too weird. I've tried a couple of names that were weird, and they were hard for people to remember, and that worked against me. I would say the weirdest name we've got right now is probably for our karaoke business. We're using pandemonio.party because we're calling our business Pandemonio Party, because we're karaoke DJs. There is .party, and you might be thinking, .party? I don't want that, and that's fine. Maybe if you're doing a party-themed business like karaoke, like we are, it could make sense.
Yeah, not lawyer.party, like probably not.
I think there's .lawyer.
Yeah, I mean, sure, but there's also .xyz, literally.
Right.
Like there's
what does that mean?
There's some odd domain names. So
yeah. So it's really up to you, but in general, I think that when it comes to trying to look professional, you're looking at .com, you're looking at .net, Dr. Party. Actually, okay, so in the 90s, I had a couple of clients who were doctors, and what became super hot for doctors, do you remember this?
I don't remember.
Moldova.
Oh, because... MD?
Right.
Oh, okay.
The country of Moldova. So a lot of the two-letter extensions, what's called a CCTLD, you can Google that, was they were all represent countries. So, for example, .pt, is that Portugal or Palestine?
Yeah, Portugal. No, Portugal. But .tv, it's the island
Tuvalu.
of Tuvalu. Yeah.
Right. .il, Israel, .au, Australia, like every country. And then there's some things you haven't even thought. So .md was Moldova, and they decided they were going to sell to everybody. You didn't have to show that you had a residence there, and the doctors that I were working with were losing their minds over buying all the .md names that they could, because they thought, oh my gosh, that's going to be so memorable because I'll be, I'll get like my name .md, and so I think that some of these weirder TLDs or extensions or domain names can make sense, but remember, this is all about marketing, and if people don't remember your name or can't find your website or accidentally go to someone else's website, you've got a marketing problem. So Yeah, so you're happierweb.com.
Yes.
You got a .com. I'm dcx.to,
I got a
among
.com,
other things.
a .net, and a .it.
Right. And my Italian business, because we started it before I used the Delta CX name, my Italian business is P-Type.
Yep.
So we bought ptype.it because it's an Italian registered company, and we bought ptype.eu.
Okay.
But I don't think we did anything with it. I never owned ptype.com. That was part of my original problem. Somebody else owned it from the very start, and so I ended up with some weird names. For my personal email, which I don't share, so I'm not going to tell you, I use a .bz, which is Belize. They have opened up. That was when people were trying to decide if they wanted biz, but then they made .biz, so you can get a .biz. But again, some of these are cool and relevant, and some of these are weird. You know, if we could get .karaoke, I would.
Yeah.
But we couldn't, so we did party, especially because Italians. The word party is not party in Italian, but the Italians have seen the word party.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Yeah, so it was a word that could still fly in Italy. And when you saw pandemonio.party, you understand that this is going to be some sort of fun party-based business, whereas if you saw pandemonio.it, you might just think it's wackiness because of the word pandemonio.
Right.
So we made some decisions there. I hope they'll work out for us. But what else can we... I'll check my notes. Anything else you want to talk about? Domain names, hosting, websites?
What was I saying earlier? So we covered registration. We covered losing your domain.
I want to talk briefly about
Yep.
copyrights.
Right.
Sometimes people say to me, hey, should I copyright my website or should I copyright my portfolio or whatever? And I say, what does that mean? What are you trying to protect against? If someone's going to steal your portfolio and pretend that your work is theirs, I don't think a copyright symbol is going to stop them from doing that unethical, evil thing. Sending something to the Copyright Office, like the United States Copyright Office, if you really want to register, it costs money. Now, just saying copyright on something costs no money. But you have to check the rules of your country. In America, and again, I'm not a lawyer, but in general, the rules are if you create something, a writing work, a musical work, an artwork, these types of things, these can get a copyright. But technically, the copyright is yours because you made this, unless you sell the copyright to somebody else or you assign it to somebody else. And that's one of the things we've talked about in the past with contracts. And so if I wrote an article for somebody else, I would probably assign the copyright to them, and that means they now own the article and could do whatever they want with it. So by default, if you make a website of original things that are truly yours, your writing, your art, your work, it is technically already your copyright. Yeah. And you could pay to copyright it or register it, but my question is, then what? Let's pretend somebody steals your work. Are you going to send a copyright lawyer after them? Probably not. You know, that you have to think about, are you going to send a trademark lawyer after somebody if they try to use your business name? Maybe you will and maybe you won't. Some of you know that I have some trademarks, and some of you know that an unlikable person I won't name some years ago tried to use one of my trademarks, and I found out about a week later because a bunch of people started writing to me, hey, I didn't know you were working with so-and-so. I thought you two didn't like each other. What? And then I found so-and-so was using something very, very close to the 4 horsemen of bad UX, and I had registered a trademark on that, which is hundreds of dollars in America. And before involving lawyers, I wrote so-and-so an email, and I said, In America, we say cease and desist. I said, you cannot use this. This is my registered trademark. I have the protection of the law on my side. You're using something too similar, and it's obviously really similar because I'm getting multiple emails from even strangers asking me if I'm working with you. And I am definitely not working with you because I don't like you. So if this is confusing people, this is definitely an infringement of my trademark. And if you don't change this, I will happily get lawyers on your case. And this person tried fighting me in email and told me I was wrong. I don't understand trademarks. They can use this name, blah, blah, blah. And I wrote back the kind of line I think people in my family would have really appreciated. And I said, you know, I had the feeling this would be a good financial year for me, but I never predicted it would happen from suing you.
Right.
And then, wouldn't you know, before I got any lawyers involved, that person changed the wording they were using and the problem went away, which is the best case scenario. I don't want, as much as I would love to have that person's money, in the end, I don't want drama, I don't want fights, and I don't want lawsuits, so I'm happy that person stopped using that stuff. But if I didn't have the registered trademark and I just said, well, the 4 Horsemen of Bad UX is mine, it might have been a different type of fight. I could still prove that I used it years before that person did, and I would probably win that fight. But it's different. So before you enter into intellectual property stuff, copyrights, trademarks, patents, ask yourself, if someone stepped on the toes of this, am I paying a lawyer to go after them? Most of us won't. We just don't have that money.
Yeah, for the rest of us, when it comes to images, things we write or create, pictures, anything, the other option is to wish AI companies scraping the internet to go bankrupt and burn in hell as soon as possible, if you ask me.
I can see that.
Yes.
Yes.
Like, not an AI fan over here. So.
Understandable. Yes.
So
yes. And I'm not an AI. I'm a Claude fan, but I'm not an AI fan when it comes to art, music, imagery,
right.
etc. Anything that's been trained on. So. That could wrap up our show for today. If anybody has any questions about domain names, websites, portfolios, again, I'm not a lawyer, but I can try to say a few helpful things about copyrights and trademarks, website hosting, domain name registration. Please let me know. If you have any follow-up questions, this will be archived on YouTube on the Delta CX Hive channel. Please subscribe. Of course, join our free Discord. Check out our upcoming courses, and all of these are linked from dcx.to. dcx.to, a cool domain name.
Yes.
Very, very nice and short, and it's easy for me to say to you, just go to DCX, short for Delta CX, dcx.to, and find links to everything. And so that's a cool domain. The .tos can be fun to own. Those make you feel like you are headed somewhere. I will start the background music that says we're going to be ending the show. If anybody has a question, you have seconds to get it to us.
Write it in the comments like YouTube people say.
That's right. If you put it in the YouTube comments, I promise we'll answer it. But thanks to everybody for this. Thanks to all the conversations in the Discord community that gave me the idea to turn this into a show. This is Take Action Tuesday. I hope everybody will take action. And everybody listening on the audio-only podcasts, spread the word about the Delta CX Hive. So I'm going to flame us out of here. See everybody tomorrow for Ask Me Anything. Thanks, Pier Mario.
You're welcome. Thank you.